And we are live. All right, crew. Welcome back to the old soapbox. And we are diving in. Wanted to, dive in here and just chat a little bit about a few things that have been on my mind. I know there's obviously been a lot going on in the world, certainly the fitness world. I think we are on the precipice of, if not already, for some of us that are closing down again, that are entering in the world of more restrictions. And it's just a very challenging time to navigate the world that we live in for multiple reasons. And it definitely doesn't get lost on me. I with all the affiliates that we program for, and one of my main jobs for the hand plan is to communicate with the affiliates and make sure that we can provide as many resources as we can. Programming is one thing, but also, just any type of questions and resources. It's something that we're truly passionate about. In traveling around the world and for seminars the past 10 years, I think it becomes very clear that people, are looking for support and help in times when they need it. And, and that's something that myself and the team can really, hope to provide in any way, shape, or form. And with that said, I was talking to, James Hobart, a good buddy of mine and owner of the Hand Plan, and we were just talking about leadership and how leadership is, kind of comes in two styles. And trust me, I know there's, by no means am I, Peter Drucker here in any way, shape, or form, but I'm no leadership expert, but from experience in the past 10 years, leading teams, owning gyms, leading teams on the weekend for seminars, some experiences, and really we started talking about two types of leadership. And these two types of leadership, I guess, I'll call one adaptive leadership and the other one, hunker down type of leadership. And I think it's very fitting for what's going on right now, certainly within the world of the gyms. And now we see that. But let's just think about all right, your hunker down leadership. What does that mean? A brief summary is, well, no matter what we're going to do, we're just going to keep doing what we're doing. And what we're doing is, consistency, blah, 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 blah. And it's known. We've seen results. We know it works. There are downsides, but it doesn't matter, so on and so forth, right? So that's that hunker down, which makes sense, right? The name hunker down. And there's sanctuary in that. Now, on the other side of that coin, you have sort of this adaptive leadership. It's like, okay, we're going to adapt and overcome. We're going to pivot. We're going to change. We're going to move. We're going to rotate. We're going to do something different than we did before because the landscape's different. Now, the positive of that is that you are, you're fast, you're responsive. There's a lot of things there. Now, the negative to that could easily be the consistency might not be there. The more opportunity for misses or something that you might not be aware of, right? You might have more blind spots, whatever it might be. And, those are the two styles of leadership. Now, where this comes into now is really thinking about, okay, what is the best style of leadership? And I don't, what is the best? I think that anyone that says one style is better than the other is probably way too blanket. You might have best styles of leadership for circumstances, right? And I think that's probably fair. So let's take the current, scenarios that we are facing in the gym industry specifically, but I would say that many industries fall in this, not all, but many. And, all right, your gym is being closed down. What is your COVID response? What have you done? So adaptive leadership is, okay, this is what we're going to do. We're going to act quickly. First off, what's our plan? All right, well, we're going to listen to the government. That's going to be our first plan. Whatever their mandates are, we're going to follow through. Okay? So that's one style, right? So if they say you got to shut down, you're going to shut down. If they say you got to wear masks, you wear masks, so on and so forth, right? And you do it. And then from there, you adapt and you make policies, procedures, and then do you create new products around that? Or do you, and that's the adaptive piece. Or do you hunker down and just do what you've been doing, right? And, hunker down would be, okay, well, we're just going to do the same thing. Or we don't want to do this because there's too much risk involved. We don't want to rent all of our gear again for a second shutdown because of the risk involved. right? That would be more hunker down, which there's truth to that. We don't know how long it's going to take, right? So what if it ends tomorrow, right? Well, we want more people to come to the gym, so if we rent gear, do we tell them not to come to the gym, right? There's all these things. Whereas the adaptive mindset might be like, let's do it all. Let's rent gear. Let's come up with the minimum threshold we need at the gyms. Let's do outside classes. Let's maybe, adapt. Our gym is closed. What can we do? Well, what can our space be used for? Can we adapt it? Can we rent it out to someone else or something else, a business that can be open? We run our Zoom classes there. Can we do, are you allowed to do personal one-on-ones? Can you have your coaches go to houses and, you continually pay them? And can they do house calls? And if people are comfortable, can you do workouts in the driveway at distances? Whatever it might be, right? You can truly adapt. Now, this adaptive leadership also comes into this notion that it becomes much harder to lead, right? Because now, because also remember, you lead people and you manage systems, right? So, and that's another really important understanding is that, all right, well, now, leading your people through this is leading from the front. Being aware that not every idea will work, being aware that, you're going to make mistakes, but our goals are the same. The hunker down mentality, I think, is antiquated, quite frankly, but it's safer, right? And it's usually this notion, and it's usually sort of there's negative connotation sort of associated with that style. What I mean by that is, well, it's numbers based. Everything's numbers based. Everything's objective based, as opposed to, I don't know if this is going to work, but let's try it. That's more adaptive, because when you adapt, you're not really sure what is going to happen, right? By design. Whereas in the hunker down, it's like, well, these are the numbers, and no matter what, we need to hit this, right? And what comes into that is emotional intelligence as well. Usually, the more emotionally intelligent you are and aware, you have to be an adaptive leader. So these are things that, and because you need to read your people, read your consumer. So there's a lot that goes into this. This is why adaptive leadership is really challenging, because it also leaves you vulnerable for mistakes. And oftentimes certain leaders that struggle with their ego or with, or their, KPIs, key performance indicators, right? It's easy to shy away from that type of risk. But this is what you see time and time again as leaders fail when they fall into that objective category. They start to make poor decisions. They start to, blend the blur the lines of morality versus, versus not, and ethics, so on and so forth. So I think adaptive leadership is definitely the way of the future. We're no longer living in an antiquated society where the only thing that matters are numbers, and certainly in the service industry where, there's so much more there. And it doesn't mean you can't have both. I just think adaptive leadership is probably your better option there. And, if you really think about this from a gym perspective, what can you do? And being able to adapt and move quickly is so important in like, all right, what type of gear rental program are you going to have? All right, well, should we do it differently than last time, right? And then can we still offer our in-person classes and virtual classes? Here's another one. It's like, do we do Zoom classes simultaneously? Do we do live classes simultaneously? And, so these are just things that you think about. And as we progress, we really need to think about our people. And this has become something that's been really on my mind a lot is throughout this challenge in this industry is, what we really need to think about is how we're taking care of our people. And as a leader, sometimes you need to be silent, sometimes you need to be vocal. But when it's all said and done, we have the same goal. We want to just help everybody. And there's gyms out there that are fighting shutdowns and things like that. And if that's the way they feel they can best serve their community, then I'm okay with it. I think you have a lot of people out there like passing judgment. It's like, hey, just because it's not the way you would do something doesn't mean it's right or wrong. It's just different. And that's okay. You don't have to support it, but you also don't have to be against it. That's that leaders are sometimes categorized as rebels as well. Remember that. It's weird that we forget history as well. Where people that change viewpoints or challenge nowadays are often viewed as, weak or wavering, or they don't stand for anything, or they are, or they're idiots for not listening to the rules. Like, all of this is funny is because, remember, to be a contrarian by nature is to question, but also to be educated is to learn. And to learn sometimes means you need to change and pivot. And that's really important. Education leads to change. Change leads to adaptation. Adaptation leads to results. So when we start to understand these things, why are we so against change? Why are we so against when people, like, hey, like for me, I've changed, throughout this whole pandemic, I've changed a lot of my viewpoints. I've learned more. Now, I might be wrong. I might be right. I don't know, but I try to listen. I also try to listen and talk to people that I don't necessarily agree with. That's super important. So, again, as we go through this process here, my challenge to you as a leader is, all right, are you a hunker down type of leader, or are you an adaptive leader? And really, because what this comes down to is almost like, I wrote this quote down. I said it in passing. Someone said, write this down. And I wrote, there is no end state in success. There is just what's next. And so when we think about that, there is no end state in success. And I think a lot of people really struggle with that notion of end state. And this is what the hunker down mentality, I think, breeds. The hunker down mentality is that there's an end state. There's never an end state. Success is it's a fictional thought process. Success is not a thing that you can grab. It's an ethos. It's an energy. If you want to be successful, you are successful. It's not that you have become successful. It's who you are. It's how you hold yourself. It's how you communicate. Because again, we are ever changing. Success in the fitness industry today is a lot different than it was a year ago. None of us know what it's going to look like in a year, but what we have to do is understand that our goals are the same. Help people, serve our people. In turn, if you're a business owner, create opportunity for your employees, right? And your greater community. How do you do that? Well, we need to learn. So when you have an end state of like, I want to get here, that's a shitty mindset. It's not, I want to get here. It's, think about it as a map with no end. You have checkpoints on the map. I want to get to here, then I want to get to here. Because sometimes when you get to one end state, right? When you get to one checkpoint, you're like, wow, I'm going to do, it changes the course of what is next, right? So, and that's the beautiful thing about it. For the, I look at, our One Nation gym's a lot different. Our trajectory is a lot different now because of all that's happened, and will be forever changed because of that. And same with the hand plan, and all of these things. My goals for my Reebok, have completely changed because I have to pivot and change. Same with seminar staff. All of these things have changed. So, am I not successful? Well, no. The goal is, success. What does success mean today? Doesn't mean it's an end state tomorrow, and we need to continually push. So, if you are a leader, if you want to be successful, then you need to know what you want and know what you don't want. If you want to, I hear like all these entrepreneurials and all this other stuff. If that's the case, and I've talked a lot about this, but if you just want to feel secure and safe and have a relatively smooth sailing life, then you will never feel successful. And from the sense of entrepreneurial mindset, from the notion of this end state, because you're reliant on other people's definitions, as opposed to your definition of success should be growth, opportunity. Now, also flexibility, right? So, and I know this is rough, but like it never ends. It never ends. Why do you work so hard? I get that question a lot. Well, it's almost like, what else is there to do? For me, it's not a question. Now, and so all that means to me is maybe I'm in the right path. Maybe I'm doing what I should be doing. If all you want to do is stop and find an end state of what you're doing, then I don't think you're doing what you should be. Right? And maybe you're not a leader. And it's okay. Everyone's not a leader either. It's okay to follow. It's okay to be inspired. Every leader has a leader. whether it's a social, moral, psychological, or physical person, everyone has some level of a leader. Okay? And I know those conversations getting relatively esoteric, but pulling it back to more tangible concepts is we need to inspire through action, communication, delivery, right? But also you need to stand your ground. Leaders stand their ground. It's a day and age where, people are bullying everyone for what they want. They don't like this. They don't like that. They don't like that. Well, leaders have to take the heat at some point as well, right? It's a tough day and age, right? If you own a gym and you have members and they have demands, at some point you have to make a stand and you're not going to make everyone happy. Think about it like a menu, right? It's like your menu's not going to make everyone happy. They just might go to another restaurant and that's okay, right? That's the beauty of, the free market. So, and then, leveling into this notion of emotional intelligence with your people, I'm a true believer that the more that you know your people, the better you can lead and listen to your people. And also leading doesn't necessarily mean doing everything. If you think that you can do it the best, awesome. I don't think there's anything wrong with that mindset. But I do think there's something wrong with that mindset if you are the only one that does it, or you're unhappy if other people do the job and they don't do the job the way you would do it. Of course, they're not going to do it the way you would do it because they're not you. A true leader empowers their people to get that job done, which means they won't do it exactly right. You need to be there. You need to throw the arm around them, help them, train them, push them, teach them, right? Emotions need to be in check as well. Something I really struggle with a long time is that frustrations or whatever it might be. It's like it's tough. I get it. But you have to pull your emotions together as a leader. It's not about you. No one cares about you. No one cares about how hard you're working. No one cares about what you're doing. It's about them. A good leader is selfless. And I know this, and maybe I'm wrong here, but I think a good leader deals with their own stuff on their own or with others outside of their direct centers of influence, with their employees, their direct reports. Because you need to lead them. You can't, you need them to look to you and then you look to someone else. That's really, really important. And the reason why that's important is because, yes, you can, if you're doing this correctly, it's going to be so hard and you have your own stuff to deal with. But you need to have a sounding board, but you cannot offload onto your people. You need them to endear you, to love you, to work hard for you, which means you need to do the same for all of them. And even if you're unhappy, even if you're frustrated, be honest, be clear, be direct, right? But I think that sometimes when we think about emotion, it's offloading everything. It's not. There's a balance there. Adaptive leadership also means you need to adapt your own needs and put it onto the back burner sometimes, but not push it away. You need to let that out. So again, this emotional intelligence piece is your awareness as well of yourself and others. One of my favorite things I ever did in the beginning with my staff was ask for life stories. And life stories is a great way to learn about people. And it's very invasive, I get it, but I always would start with mine, which is a pretty long life story, and I've given most of it on this podcast. And because I like to highlight that, because now when people understand where I come from, they understand me better. And if I could do the same for other people, and there's all this talk in this world in diversity and inclusion, and it's funny, and I've been a part of really amazing workshops, and the more I'm a part of these, the more I realize all we need to do is learn about people's lives. But we've separated work life and personal life so much. Why are we surprised that we're struggling to connect with people and understand people? Because we don't understand them. You don't understand me until you learn about me. How are you going to learn about me if I never open that door? And no one's going to tell their life story in some type of formal meeting. It's got to be like a personal thing. Good leaders create emotional safety. Emotional safety creates vulnerability. Vulnerability allows for understanding and trust. And therefore, when you have understanding and trust, you now will work hard, believe in the mission, trust each other, and that is a team that is willing to do what it takes to get the job done. And that's what I think adaptive leadership is, because you have to adapt based off what you learn. Hunkered down doesn't care about that stuff. Adaptive leadership does. Adaptive leadership is hard. Hunkered down leadership is easy because it's safe. Complacency breeds mediocrity. And the minute that you feel like you're safe in most things in life, look over your shoulder, because it's not. That's what I got for you. 20 minutes. Adaptive. Hunkered down. Appreciate you guys. Be well. Be safe. We'll make it through.